Greetings and welcome to another episode of Queer and Authentic. I am Derek Tennille, and this episode is sponsored by Rethink the Narrative and the Esteem Awards. And today we have the privilege of having with us Alexis Pauline Gumbs. Now, yay!
I'm so happy to be here.
We are indeed so very, very, very happy to have you. So I'm just going to jump right in. I was on your website. And the first line of your bio struck me that says, queer Black troublemaker and Black feminist love evangelist and an aspirational cousin to salient beings. I love it. So, can we just take a moment to unpack each one of those? Queer
Yeah.
Black troublemaker.
Well, Bayard Rustin, our dear ancestor, talked about angelic troublemakers. I feel like he was talking about so many of us. So I'm just raising my hand. I'm part of that number. I think there's something about the transformative impact of Blackness and the transformative impact of queerness that is part of my assignment.
Now, I noticed that you put queer Black troublemaker. Is there any reason why you put those two labels, for lack of a better term, in that particular order?
You know, I think that a queer Black troublemaker. I guess I knew I was Black before I knew I was queer. So it's kind of like queer, I added it onto the front because I've known I was a Black troublemaker, since I was a baby. But,
Well,
um, sometimes it takes us a minute to come into our consciousness of
absolutely.
our sexuality and the politics of our sexuality.
Well, think about it this way as also the other part of that is that we are, we're peculiar, we're strange, we're
That's
queer from
right.
birth, and it has absolutely nothing to do with our
Exactly.
sexual orientation. So,
That's right. That's
so,
definitely true for me.
so what about the next part? Black feminist love evangelist.
Yes. So I am so happy to be part of the Black feminist tradition, which is a love tradition. So I mean, I see myself in the lineage, of course, of people like Audre Lorde and Barbara Smith and June
Yes.
Jordan and so many of our amazing elders and ancestors. And Black feminist love, like really the love that they offered forward by being Black feminists and by being out and proud and creative and, creating so many works of art that could live on to this day, especially their writing. I feel accountable to that love stream. And so I just want everyone to know I really am an evangelist about it. I'm like, have you heard about Audre Lorde? Have you heard the good news of Black feminism? So that's
Yes.
why I
Absolutely.
describe myself that way.
Awesome. And so what about this last part? An aspirational cousin.
You know, really, I'm an aspirational favorite cousin. I just feel like we're all related. And, at some point I'm going to be like, okay, so who are your people? How are we related? But I think that approach to understanding that we really are all related. I mean, not even only inside the species, right? That's why I feel like all sentient beings, it's like we have a shared ancestry, we have a shared ecosystem, and we're family. So I'm your cousin, and I want folks to know that I'm relating to you through as a relative, not as somebody who I see as separate from myself, but I'm always looking for the connection.
Yes, yes, yes. Not a stranger,
Not a stranger, exactly, a cousin.
but a cousin. Oh, I
At least,
love it.
at least.
At least, at least. So tell me about Brilliance Remastered. What is it
Brilliant.
and what's your mission?
Yeah, Brilliance Remastered is inspired by Audre Lorde. So in Audre Lorde's essay, The Master's Tools Will Never Dismantle the Master's House, that's important, right? The title is one of the most important sentences in the essay. But this is a talk that she gave at the university where she worked, CUNY in New York, and she was talking to a group of academic white feminists about the fact that the way they were trying to use women's studies was actually reproducing racism and oppression. So the thing that she said after that, she said, the master's tools will never dismantle the master's house. And that is only a problem for those women who still see the master's house as their only source of support. It's a read. So I was really inspired by that. And I created Brilliance Remastered towards, I think I had just finished graduate school.
Mm.
And I was really interested in, I was becoming an independent scholar, and I was interested in building a community of folks who were able to be what I call community accountable intellectuals and artists who understood that actually our real source of support is our people. And it's not, it doesn't have to be like a certain institution, a certain museum, a certain university. It's actually our folks that are our greatest source of support. And what would we do if our intellectual work, if our creative work, if all of our energy actually was based on that truth?
Wow, wow. I know reading your bio, I just I got inspired. And in the words of our former first lady the other night at the DNC, I got inspired to do something
Mm.
or to do even more than what I'm doing because I connected with your vision and what you are doing. It is apparent that Audre Lorde inspired you as a source of inspiration for you. Are there any other sources of inspiration that help to fuel the work that you're doing?
Oh my gosh, there's only inspiration. I mean, my family inspires me. You inspire me. Phil inspires me. The Esteem Awards just like lay out all of these incredible community builders that inspire me. Um, yeah, I think that really everywhere I look, I see inspiration. And I was just actually, I was waiting to get in the Zoom room and I was talking to my auntie. And yeah, family stories inspire me. And my grandparents, who were part of a revolution in Anguilla in 1967, they were some of my first inspirations. And my grandfather, my papa, he has the same birthday as Audre Lorde, and he's the person who taught me to love poetry. He memorized every poem that he loved, and he would just recite them to me. So I feel like I'm living a life of inspiration. There's so many inspiring people everywhere that we turn. And Audre Lorde is definitely one of the people who, even though I never got to witness her in action because I born a little bit too late. I was born right on time, but we didn't overlap. Um, yeah, her poetry has been inspiring me since I was 14 years old. And I felt like it was part of my assignment because I've benefited so much from her work to help share it with other people.
Awesome. And I love what you said that you live in inspiration. And when you live in inspiration, you can't help but to be to inspire others to live in their truth. I absolutely love that. So now I got excited about this when I read it. Mobile Homecoming Project. So tell the
Yes.
audience about it because again, reading your bio made me want to go do something. And so my mind started churning. So please tell us
Yes.
about the Mobile Homecoming Project.
The Mobile Homecoming Project is, we call it an experiential archive. And it really started when my partner Shango Dare and we went to a conference, and Shango Dare was tasked to make the video for this conference. And one of the workshops at the conference was led by Mandy Carter, who is an incredible community builder, visionary, one of the founders of the National Black Justice Coalition, one of the founders of Southerners on New Ground, really amazing person. And in her workshop, she just asked all of these different Black lesbians of different ages to tell their story. And we were just like, ah. And speaking of living inside inspiration, we were like, we want to live inside this inspiration.
Yes.
So we sat in the parking lot and we were like, what if we got an RV and we drove around and we just listened to people's stories? It would be like a family reunion, like a homecoming, because these are the people who, especially our elders, have made a way for us, and what would it mean to bring ourselves home to them, to bring their stories home to community? So we did it. We started fundraising, a very grassroots fundraising, and we bought a 1988 Winnebago, and we got in it and we just drove around and we parked in people's driveways and danced for them and offered them poems. It really was a journey of gratitude and of listening. And that was the beginning of it. The listening tour was the first thing that we did. And then we started to have retreats. And now we're in the process of creating a living library for how we can continue to share these stories.
And it's just, I guess it just took on a life of its own, and it's still taking on a life of its own. I think it is so wonderful what you are doing, and oftentimes in certain circles that I'm in, we talk about how many of us were robbed of the ancestors due to the HIV/AIDS epidemic.
That's
And
right.
as a result of that, we don't have those stories, we don't have those points of connection to and people to who mentored us. And so we kind of learned by trial and error. But although the epidemic took a lot of people, there's always a remnant.
That's
And
right.
I love the fact that you're finding those voices in all aspects and reconnecting those stories in order to bring us all home. I love the way India Ari says this in her song Better People. If young people would talk to old people, it would make us a better people all around. And
That's right.
so I can't help but be excited and celebrate that these stories that you and your partner are collecting are going to be around for years and years to come for people for young queer people who are coming behind us to connect to
Yeah.
the ancestors.
Yes. We need that connection. And this is why, I mean, it's such a blessing when we can actually sit together. And then we know there are some ancestors who the remnant that they left is through their poetry or through their
Yes,
art or through their archives. I'm gonna hold up this book. So in this biography of Audre Lorde that I just wrote, I mean, I wish I could sit with Audre Lorde, but it was like the archives and the remnants and other people's letters and her funeral program, and all of the different artifacts that I could find and the people who I could interview about her. But also some of our ancestors who we lost to HIV/AIDS epidemic. It was really important for me to honor them here. There's a whole chapter about Essex Hemphill in here. There's a whole chapter about Joseph Beam in here, because these are people, we can't understand the history of our community one person at a time, actually, because they were profoundly connected to each other. So um, it was really a joy to I tried to replicate, giving us the space to sit with Audre and Essex and Joseph Beam, because I really wish that we could, and so I tried to use as much detail, like so much detail, to try to give us that which we're longing for. Because you're right, it's the connection that we're longing for.
absolutely, absolutely. So speaking of connection, now you're also involved with Broken Beautiful Press.
Mhm.
Tell us what's that all about?
Broken Beautiful Press is really my homage to Kitchen Table Women of Color Press, which Audre Lorde was a co-founder of. Barbara Smith was the main person who kept that press alive. And they are such a gift because they kept works in print that we needed. They actually made our movement intergenerational by making sure there would be these books that could be taught in the classrooms of the future. And when I learned about them, I would maybe grab one, but I learned about this pamphlet series that they made. Here, I'm just going to
Yes,
grab.
yes, go ahead.
Okay, here's one. So they did this freedom organizing series. And so they published books, but they also, when they went to Nairobi for the UN Year on Women, Barbara Smith made these like little pamphlets and they had pins on them: no to apartheid, no to racism. They had important essays in them. And when I saw these, my professor, Farrah Griffin, brought one to class when I was in college. And I was like, wait a minute, I could do that. I could fold a piece of cardstock, you know? And so I was like in my dorm room and then using my work study job copier, you know, to just like put some of these things out that I felt that we needed in that moment. And then um, through the digital age, being able to actually publish things to PDF, to like just to make things really accessible
Yes.
that we needed. And I've only felt empowered to do that because of the example of Kitchen Table Press. So I'm so grateful.
Now, it is so obvious to me that you are indeed pregnant with purpose.
Thank you.
Out of all of the projects that you have worked on and published and things you've published, which one or ones do you find have had the most impact, have been most meaningful for you?
Hmm. Oh, that's hard. It's almost like asking somebody like, which one of your babies, you know?
Who's your favorite?
I'm like, I love them all. Um, yeah, that's a really hard one. I mean, I would say because mobile homecoming is ongoing and it really is kind of the umbrella for everything else, that it's had the most impact. I mean, like you said, getting to have these conversations and being in a continual intergenerational love stream is it impacts everything that I do. I'm constantly thinking about those lessons. I'm constantly thinking about specific things that elders have said. And now we've been doing reflective writing workshops and gatherings where we work with the poetry of our ancestors. Yeah, it's just a sacred space to be inside of the reality that you just shared about and that India Irie talked about. We are actually in an intergenerational relationship at
Yes.
every moment. And yeah, I think that that's why that's so core to me and to us. And, because I co-create it with my partner, we live inside of it, like our whole lives are inside of that context.
Okay, awesome. So last question. What's next for Alexis Pauline Gumbs?
Mm. Well, I'm on the road with Survival is a Promise, and it's 58 chapters, and there's just all these lessons from Audre Lorde, all of these ways of what we could learn from being with her. And what, I mean, there's so many things that are next because you see how I am. But but one of the things that we're really excited about doing is creating space, actual workshop space to sit in circle with all of these lessons so people can apply it in their own lives, and not just be like, oh, wow, what a wonderful ancestor. Audre Lorde was great. She was. And
Mhm.
we're great, right? We all have that potential within us. And we just need each other's support, just like the circle of support that she had in order to manifest that. The other thing that's really important is that, Audre Lorde was a climate thinker. She was warning us about some of the things that we're facing right now ecologically. And part of her expertise around that came from being a hurricane survivor. So our mobile homecoming listening right now is focusing on artists in our community who have survived hurricanes and what they learned, what they created, the adaptation that they modeled in those survival experiences. So those are a couple of things that I'm really excited about.
Wow. Again, I said it earlier, and it bears repeating. You are pregnant with purpose. I am so super excited, and I am leaving this interview inspired to go do some new
Yay.
things of my own. So I do believe that iron sharpens iron, um,
Yes.
that you are indeed a sharpening force and a force to be reckoned with. And I can't wait to see what you do next. I really cannot wait to see. Amazing. So Congratulations to
Thank
you. And
you.
we will be looking for more of those mobile homecoming stories. And when you're able to archive them and share them, uh, that's going to be such an amazing blessing to so many people. So, congratulations to you and to your partner. So, thank you, Alexis Pauline Gumbs, for just taking a few minutes to have a queer and authentic conversation with
Oh,
me.
thank you. I'm so honored to be part of this series with you. And just thank you for the ongoing love that you share through this work. We all need a place to be our authentic selves. And I'm so glad that you are pouring your love into this.